Hello everyone, Namaste. My name is Arsh and I welcome you back to the new video of Economics ASAP series. Today the topic of the video will be something which is commonly talked about in the news. It is known as SWIFT. Now SWIFT stands for Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. The expansion of term SWIFT is very explanatory in itself. The first term is worldwide. Now, it means that this system is not restricted to any particular country, but it is a very global phenomenon. It is a very uh, global system. The second and third term is interbank financial. Interbank financial means that it involves a lot of banks, right? A lot of financial institutions. And the last term is telecommunication. So basically, it tells that SWIFT is a communication system. It is a messaging system, right? In a very definitive purpose, SWIFT is an international system which makes the international financial transactions easier. Every banking transaction which deals with a country outside its domestic territory is done through SWIFT. In this way, there is complete transparency in international transactions, and also the tracing of money from one source to another is easier. I will give you a very easy example, a very simple example actually. So for example, I am in Czech Republic and my parents are in India, and my parents wants to send money to me from Indian bank account to the bank account in Czech Republic. Now they will go to net banking website, or they will go to the branch of the bank in India. They will fill out every details, but one of the details will be the SWIFT code. Now the SWIFT code is also known as BIC, right? So the SWIFT code which they will fill will be used as a means of communication with the bank, between the bank in India and the bank in Czech Republic, saying that on this SWIFT code the payment is being done. The payment will be done from this bank account in India to this bank account in Czech Republic, right? So the SWIFT code will be a medium of communication between bank in India to the bank in Czech Republic. This is all what SWIFT does, right? So SWIFT is a means of communication, right? It does not facilitate payments, but it facilitates communication between banks, right? That is why they say that SWIFT is not a payment mechanism but a communication or a messaging mechanism between banks all around the world. Coming to some historical facts, SWIFT was established in 1973 and it is based in Belgium. Since it is a community, it is an organization, it has board members. It has, I think, around 25 board members, and they come from different parts of the world. Till now, SWIFT has onboarded around almost or over 11,000 banks and financial institutions across over 200 countries. So it is a backbone of international financial transactions currently. As I mentioned before, SWIFT is not a payment execution mechanism, but a communication system on the information about the transfer of funds from one country to another. Right. There are currently alternatives to SWIFT, right, such as SPFS system in Russia and CIPS system built by China. And before SWIFT, there was a system known as Telex. Telex was less efficient and more costly system, and there were some problems in the Telex system which led to the birth of SWIFT system. Now, as we have seen that SWIFT is a backbone of international transactions. It is a very globally interconnected system. Almost all countries in the world are dependent upon this system. So what happens if a country is removed or ejected from this system, right? What happens? So there is a case study, and it's an unfortunate case study, because whenever a country is removed from the SWIFT system, yes, it is because they have done something wrong in the eyes of Western powers. But yes, the people of those countries suffer a lot at the end. So this was the case in Iran in 2012, when USA and European Union decided to put a lot of economic sanctions, financial sanctions on Iran against their pursuit of nuclear and energy program. So one of the sanctions was removal of Iran from the SWIFT system, and it did happen after a lot of struggles. Iran was expelled from SWIFT system in 2012, and they immediately lost half of its oil exports, right? They also lost 30% of its foreign trade, right? Now, why removal of SWIFT system is so bad for a country? Because uh, if a if any businessman wants to export anything outside its country, for example, a businessman in Iran wants to export its oil and gas to India, right? So when they're exporting gas and oil to India, they will be expecting a payment in return, right? Now India will pay to Iran, will pay from Indian bank account to Iranian bank account, right? And they have to use SWIFT because SWIFT is a necessary input while paying from one country to another, from bank account in India to bank account in Iran. Now, since SWIFT system is not functioning in Iran, the payment cannot happen, right? So they have to go through another systems, which is not usually desirable by countries because other systems are not efficient, other systems are not effective, and other systems are more costly than SWIFT, right? So India will be then reluctant to import oil and gas from Iran because they do not accept payments on the SWIFT system, right? So that is how Iran started losing its foreign trade, and it started losing its foreign trade on all in all sectors other than oil and gas as well. So this is how worse it can be. It can get if a country is expelled out of the SWIFT system. And India also stopped importing oil from Iran. They restarted importing oil from Iran in a very limited amount, but also not in exchange of dollars, but in exchange of rupees. So India exploited this situation in Iran by importing oil instead of rupees, right? So this is how a bad the condition can get of a country if it is removed of the SWIFT system. Now this is also something known as global vulnerability. Now SWIFT is a system which is heavily interconnected, right? It makes country interdependent on each other, right? But sometimes Western countries try to exploit these systems because they know that every country is so dependent upon this system. They have to bow down to the Western powers if they are removed from the SWIFT system, right? That is why countries like Russia and China, fearing out of this interconnectedness, interdependentness, uh, they are building systems like SPFS and CIPS because they know there could be a situation when Western powers such as US, UK, EU will put pressure on SWIFT to remove these countries from the system whenever they want, right? Whenever such situation arises. And that situation came very recently when Russia started its war crime in Ukraine by attempting to invade Ukraine. And till now, they have been unsuccessful, and I hope they will remain unsuccessful in invading Ukraine. So, as soon as Russia started invading Ukraine, Western powers such as USA, UK, EU started putting a lot of financial sanctions on Russia. And one of the most strictest form of sanctions, as proclaimed by media outlets, is the removing selected bank accounts or removing Russia from the SWIFT system. Now, as we know, or we may not know, that Russia is a very oil and gas export oriented economy. It exports most of the oil and gas reserves to European Union and European countries. So SWIFT enables Russian energy companies such as Gazprom, which is the largest Russian oil exporting company, to get payments for selling oil and gas globally. So, for example, if Gazprom, which is oil exporting company in Russia, is exporting its oil and gas to EU, they will obviously receive payments from European countries, right? And that payment will be facilitated through Swift code. Now, if the Gazprom's bank accounts are removed from the Swift system, EU will no longer be able to pay Russia money for Gazprom for its oil exports, and therefore Russia will or Gazprom will also stop exporting their oil and gas reserves, or they will start exporting at a much higher prices, right? So it would hurt European countries as well, as it may lead to energy price hikes, and it will be more painful for European countries in the time of high inflation period, right? So what are the costs which Russia has to bear if they are removed from the SWIFT system? So it will be no longer cheap and easy for European countries to make payments, and also no longer efficient and cheap to accept payments by Russia, right? And the payments will not be secure as well, because SWIFT is the most secure system of financial transactions till now. So no SWIFT means that no one will be interested to buy goods and services from Russia, right? Because it will make the payment system more tedious, more costly. So Russia will definitely lose its foreign trade, but more obviously there will be an impact on oil and gas exports. Possibly, it could become more expensive for European countries. It is said that USA and Germany are the countries which will be losing the most if the Russia is disconnected from the SWIFT system. Even though media is saying that it is the most strictest form of financial sanctions on Russia, my analysis says that it is a very half-hearted move by Western countries, primarily because they know that if Russia is completely removed from the SWIFT system, they will be the ones who will be bearing most of the cost because of the dependence over Russia for its oil and gas exports. Secondly, it is not a very hidden fact that even before this decision was taken, Russia had already made, uh, you know, tie-ups with German and Swiss banks, with their SPF, with their own built-in system, which is SPFS system. So most of the foreign reserves, so the banks in which Russia has most of the foreign reserves, they have already tied up with SPFS system. So in case they want they want to indulge in any international transactions with Europe or European countries, they can do it through banks in Germany and Switzerland, where they have already established their own SPFS system, right? And also, if you see carefully, by the statement of USA, UK, and other countries in Western world, they say that they will remove only selected banks from the SWIFT system. Right now, the selection of selected banks bring has not been done yet. Right, so we need to see what are those selected banks, because it will decide the harshness of this sanction over Russia. But ultimately, the losers of this game will be people, will be the middle class, will be the lower class, will be the people of all the countries around the world, which will be affected. So people have to bear the high cost of oil and gas. People have to bear the cost of inflation, both in Russia and as well as in EU. So no one will be profitable from these sanctions except few players in politics. I don't know what else. So this is my analysis about the decision taken by Western powers against Russia on removal of SWIFT, and this was all about the SWIFT system. Uh, you know, but this SWIFT system, how was it built? Why is it preferable? Because it is more efficient, less costly, and more secure. And also, the possibility of cybercrime on SWIFT is also very less, because imagine if there is a cyber hack, or if a SWIFT system is hacked, the hackers can communicate from one bank to another, that this payment will go from this bank to this bank, and they can easily distort the communications. So that is why these communication methods needs to be secure, and till now SWIFT has proved itself to be secure against those cyber hacks and cyber crimes. So this is all from my side, and I hope I was able to explain everything I could in this short period of time. So thank you so much and keep learning.